Hey everyone, it's Alexander, the real Mr. Robinson. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to another watch along. Today it's the final film in the second Godzilla series and my favorite of that series. We'll see how that holds up because in terms of favorite Heisei movies, I often flip-flop between the first movie and this one here, Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. And just going to welcome everyone who's in the chat right now, all the regulars here. Want to give a special shout out to Razor Bike because he is still binging through my favorite TV show of all time, Community. Gotta say, as much as I loved seasons 1 through 3 and half of season 5, season 4 was a real letdown, and it is. It's they call it the gas leak season, and if you're only through the first half of season 5, just wait because there are a lot more jokes. There's a lot more meta jokes aimed at season 4. I mean, the thing about season 4, it's not horrible. For me, there are 3 episodes I really like, 3 episodes that I absolutely despise, and the rest are just meh. But yeah, you could definitely tell that Dan Harmon was not involved with that series at all. That season, even though he'd been credited as a consultant, which, I mean, again, you could tell by the quality of the series of that season, no, that is not the case at all. And he's very unhappy. He was very unhappy with season 4. But I just don't think it flat out sucks. I mean, for me personally, I do think there are 3 good episodes. The Hunger Deans one, the first episode and the Inspecticon episode. And part of me is just saying that because I am an extra in those episodes. If you watch very carefully, you could see a 2012 version of myself because that's when the season was shot. But if I'm not all that serious, if I'm being totally serious on what episodes of the Gas Leak season I like, I also like the one where Abed meets Brie Larson's character, Rachel. And yeah, everything else is just kind of mediocre. But we're not here to talk about Community. That's a video for another time that I am planning to make. We are here to talk about Godzilla. And we are, again, as I said, this is Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. This is the movie that never fails to make every Godzilla fan out there weep. And this will be a great test to see, can that happen this time with me? Will this movie actually make me shed a tear on camera? We will find that out. Oh, yeah. Razor Bike. Yeah, don't worry about it. But, I mean, I'm going to be doing a review of the entire series, or an updated review, because I did a review of Community back when season 4 was the brand new season and just ended. So I feel like I need to update it to where I include seasons 5 and 6, but I'll talk about Community later on. But right now, we're going to just start this movie. For those of you who are watching in post-production, you can rent this movie on digital. I think Vudu... I think you can rent it on YouTube also. And just watch along. I'm going to start playing the movie. I'm going to get to your question. I see a few other questions coming up. I'm just going to hit the play button first of all, and then I'll get into those questions. I'm going to hit the play button right now. I don't know why I just did all this and wasted time. But yeah, we are starting here. They really anticipated this movie to be the last one because you had the footsteps and the roar, just like the original 1954 film. Razorbike says Rachel is great. Also, what are the 3 episodes you hate? I hate the puppet episode because Community will often do those what are sometimes called gimmick episodes. And the puppet episode is the gimmick episode formula done completely wrong. I hate the episode where Abed figures out that everyone has met each other beforehand and that their arrival to Greendale is all connected. And I hate the one where, like, I hate the season finale where all the study group members from the darkest timeline arrive into the primary timeline, because it just ends up being such a cop-out when it ends. So that's why. But yeah, luckily with season 5 and 6, it picks up even with the absence of Troy. And Gzilla 100 says, did I see that photo for Godzilla vs. Kong? Yes, I did. And I'm excited for it. Not much else to say about it. I'm just excited for it. But back to this movie here, because I have not once talked about the movie we're actually watching now. This is a great opening sequence. I mean, there was that moment where Mickey and G-Force were heading to Baz Island, and it just completely disappeared into the ocean. And not just disappeared, it looked like it was the site of an erupting volcano. It's a dinosaur, a red dinosaur. I would think at this point, Godzilla is widely recognized. Yeah, this whole sequence, it's just, I mean, one thing, you got Ifukube coming back for his final score, and what a score, like, to close out his career. But also, like, you get Godzilla right off the bat, and you could tell something's wrong with him. I mean, this whole marketing campaign, the entire marketing campaign for this movie, and was around Godzilla's death. And the tagline of this movie was even Godzilla dies. So, like, they weren't shy about the fact that they were going to kill Godzilla in this movie. But the circumstances of how they approach killing him is kind of horrifying, because because like when this opens up, he's got red atomic breath that's more powerful than ever. He's red and glowing. There's Momoko Kochi being credited. I mean, they made, like, Godzilla dying in this movie was such a big deal that, like, this movie didn't come out in the United States until 1999. But even before this movie came out in 95, there was an entire CNN news story about this movie. So that just really goes to show you that even though we didn't get this movie until 4 years later, it was such a big deal worldwide. I do hate when with these like international versions, I hate that they just plaster English text over the Japanese titles, because we want to see the cool Japanese titles, not the blank and boring English titles that are whatever. Like, you could just subtitle those Japanese titles. It's not that hard. You know, the people of Hong Kong are pretty calm with Godzilla just running around causing mayhem and destruction. He seems pretty jolly about that whole idea. I guess I guess they hinted at that in the original movie. Yeah, that blew up in their face. You know, I know this is a more serious movie, but it would have been funny if G-Force and his professors looked at that thesis in the condition that Godzilla is in right now, and he just looks at all of them and goes, "Now who's the smart one?" Ha 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 ha. Ha. Wow, somebody's a fanboy. Razorbike says, "Man, studying the biology of Godzilla would be the coolest thing to do." I imagine you'd have to understand something about nuclear physics in order to study Godzilla. But that would be crazy. That would be a crazy job, assuming Godzilla ever existed. But also, I feel like this movie is kind of um, evidence on why Godzilla shouldn't exist. Because if Godzilla really is, as this movie says, a walking nuclear reactor that can melt down, then that's catastrophic. What a hell of an introduction. There's Emiko, which I gotta say, I gotta say, like, it's cool that they brought Momoko Kochi back, but they don't do much with her. Like, she's only in like maybe 2 scenes to deliver exposition. And what a like what a missed opportunity to bring back Akira Takarada as Ogata. Like it would have been such a great opportunity to like bring in Ogata and show that, oh, these two eventually got married and they stayed married for over 40 years. We'll see how that plays out later on. Oh, we don't get to see it. I thought it was gonna play out like Rodan. Huh? You had a bunch of construction workers, not miners this time, and something tragic happens to them. I wonder if is that the same pilot, the blonde pilot in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2? I say I always love how Godzilla is just constantly steaming throughout this whole movie. But at the same time, it was difficult for Ken Satsuma because the suit just constantly was steaming. He would often pass out during filming. That's bleak as hell. Let's see. Godzilla attacked that original location and right there. Like that 1 second of Godzilla exploding in that what if scenario became a toy. That's so bizarre. Jeez. It's funny, like, in comparison to this Burning Godzilla, where Burning Godzilla in this movie is a huge problem and is pretty much Godzilla having a heart attack before he explodes and melts down. But in King of the Monsters, Burning Godzilla just means he went Super Saiyan, pretty much. You know, there's probably he left, so there's probably no point in the cameraman to continue filming. All right, so this movie, they actually emphasize that this Godzilla is the second of its kind. Which, I mean, they never explicitly said, like in the first three movies of this series, they pretty much alluded to the fact that it was the same Godzilla from 1954, but they never really they never fully addressed it until this movie. Yes, completely go against Serizawa's wishes. I mean, like this is really in a tough situation where this movie just puts that whole idea into like a really complex situation, because like obviously Serizawa's fear of the oxygen destroyer like being made public was that it could have horrible consequences and be a weapon that's worse than the nuclear bombs. But at this point, like Godzilla, like they got to get rid of Godzilla somehow. So I don't know. Like, let's say Destoroyah never appeared in this movie. Like the oxygen destroyer never appeared as a monster. Like, where would you stand on that? Like, would you willingly recreate the oxygen destroyer and go against what Serizawa died for? Or do you just let Godzilla die and take the whole world with him? And that's the last we ever see of Momoko Kochi. Not just in this movie, but this was the last thing that she ever did before she passed away. So cool that they actually recreated Dr. Yamane's office from the original, right down to that really weird-looking skeleton of a stegosaurus. Momoko Kochi, she really just kind of disappeared from acting, and she just didn't want to be involved with a lot of other Toho science fiction movies after the Mysterians. And Godzilla vs. Destoroyah was the last movie that she worked on, or the last big movie that she worked on before she died in November of 1998. I want to welcome some other people in the chat. Jason Rogos and Kaiju Nerd United. Welcome. This scene's pretty creepy. So that guy got demoted from like high-ranking government official in G-Force, and he's now a security guard during the night shift at an aquarium. How bad has your career gotten to where that happens to you? The music, ooh. Yeah, that's pretty horrifying. Especially now with, like, since technology has evolved in the 41 years that this movie came out, in between this movie and the original. And this music right here is the same music from King Kong versus Godzilla during the Seahawk sequences. His scream is a little goofy and over the top, but that's still creepy aside. Man, look at that prehistoric phone. Kaiju Nerd United asks, are you doing the dub or the Japanese version? I am doing the Japanese version. But considering that since there's really not much of a there's literally no difference between, like, which version you watch in terms of audio. Because, There are no scenes that are cut and no scenes that are altered, so it's all the same. But if you want to know, I'm watching it in Japanese. All right, later, Kaiju Nerd United. Earlier you said, I assume you're on the alien scene. No, we are not even close to that sequence. Johnny Gallagher, welcome. How do you feel if Paul W. Anderson directed a Godzilla movie? Why? We already had Roland Emmerich ruin Godzilla once before, or at least attempt to ruin it, because Toho managed to do Godzilla some justice and Legendary. But Paul W. Anderson is a terrible choice for anything. No. Kaiju Nerd United, we just finished the aquarium sequence. And I think, yeah, right now we're at the point where Godzilla's been sighted in Okinawa. Michael Bay no, why are you all recommending the worst directors possible to take on a monster movie or a Godzilla movie? Now a Godzilla movie made by Paul Thomas Anderson would be interesting. Cuz like Paul Thomas Anderson's movies are just kind of back and forth. But I always like that story he tells of his only day in film school, where his professor said, if anyone's coming here to make a movie like the next Terminator 2, then get out. And Paul W. Anderson is pretty much like, wait a minute, Terminator 2 is a great movie. Why? What's wrong with that? What if Michael Bay directed a Godzilla movie? Imagine the destruction. Michael Bay is the only director that can make tons of explosions seem boring. So why? No, Michael Bay is... Razorbike sums it up perfectly. Y'all are some blasphemous mofos. I mean, we already had a Michael Bay type movie in the Godzilla series anyway with Final Wars. We don't need the actual Michael Bay to direct a Godzilla movie ever. Okay, this bridge, we got a first pretty good... Yeah, we got a good glimpse of Destoroyah, which there it looked like it was done via stop motion. But for some reason, that bridge just destroyed on its own. Thank you, Arflow. Guillermo del Toro. Like, that's a guy I would love to see a Godzilla movie from. And you know what? Steven Spielberg's a great director, but I'd want the Steven Spielberg from the days of Raiders of the Lost Ark or Jurassic Park to make a Godzilla movie, not the Spielberg that we have right now, where he's just not the same director he was back then. Especially with the way the endings to his movies are just... Spielberg has a problem nowadays where he just kind of fumbles the endings to his movies. I mean, I'm one of the few guys that love Saving Private Ryan, even the ending. But Spielberg just hasn't been able to nail the endings ever since a long time. Like, since he made Schindler's List, he's just become a completely different director. Okay, now it's like a Medea Godzilla movie. I am not going to entertain the idea of a Medea Godzilla movie. I don't want... Like, let George Lucas stay in retirement. Like, George Lucas just needs to stay in retirement, and he's good. Like, George Lucas is good at storytelling, but he can't direct actors nowadays. And plus, I don't know. But speaking of American films, we are now at the point in the movie where it completely rips off Aliens. Again, it should be noted that this movie was once again written by Kazuki Amore, and again, in every Godzilla movie that he either writes solely or writes and directs, he has to put in something that rips off an American film. Like in Godzilla vs. Biollante, he had segments of those, but never like a straight out scene that rips off a movie, where he just borrowed elements from Lethal Weapon and Little Shop of Horrors. In Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah, he straight out ripped off the Terminator 2 T-1000. In Godzilla vs. Mothra, he ripped off scenes from both Raiders of the Lost Ark and Temple of Doom. And now in this movie, we have him ripping off Aliens. Right down to the point where one of the officers has like a Vasquez-type gun from Aliens. Like that guy right there. And you even got the tracker from Aliens. And the Destoroyah coming out of the ceiling. I'm surprised they didn't do more with that guy in terms of like him dying. Yeah, shoot him in the mouth. That'll do some work. Oh, that poor bastard. He got cornered by two of them. Yeah, even the lighting is straight out of Aliens. And they've even got the flamethrowers. Although I gotta say, like, even though this movie is just a straight off up Aliens ripoff, this sequence here, it is cool to see like the monster suits and props that they created for the monster scenes. Oh, that's disappointing. That was a disappointing explosion, but anyway, it's kind of cool to see like these monster suits interact with actual humans. Kaboom! I'm disappointed that with the one Destoroyah that got blown up by a bazooka, I'm disappointed that they didn't make an actual suit or prop that was designed to blow up. Okay, that wide shot looked rather silly. You know, she could keep running. You know, he could, whenever Destoroyah uses his micro-oxygen spray on humans, they could easily just, like, disintegrate or melt or suffer the same fate as those fish. But no, they just kind of have to fly backwards and, no damage done. Like the Gauss suit in Gamma Guardian of the Universe. Exactly. Which, by the way, 1995 was an awesome year for giant monster movies. Because, I mean, you had this movie that came out in December of 95. December 9th. And then just back in March 11th, 1995, you had the first legitimately good Gamera movie, Guardian of the Universe. You could easily get out of the car. Okay, I'm just gonna call like bullshit right here with this whole thing, because like she could easily run out the door. Obviously that thing's not fast. I mean, teenagers in a Friday the 13th movie have more common sense to run than her. Speaking of... Oh no, the car did start. It's just it didn't go very far. Oh yeah, there's another alien, xenomorph ripoff with the little mouth within the mouth. Well, you know what? Like, back to, like, the Friday the 13th comparison and this creature not moving very fast. Like, she could run, but that thing would probably just teleport and catch up with her instantly. Again, she could have easily gotten out. But now she's stuck in that car as Destoroyah is just, like, flipping it over constantly. How she didn't die from that is beyond me. Oh. Oh, that's lucky. That's incredibly convenient. Yoink! That is just a straight up xenomorph. Once again, Kazuki Amore's writing. Yeah, they were totally lighting that. Okay, they didn't actually blow up a suit, but they're actually lighting that one on fire. Okay, enough of ripping off American films. Back to the actual Godzilla movie. At this point, like, with Godzilla melting down and this point where he's looking for a nuclear power plant, nuclear energy is just like crack for him. It's like, hey man, you got any more nuclear energy? You got any more nuclear energy on you, man? Oh yeah, like we almost totally forgot about this weapon that just again came out of nowhere, but is built as perfectly for the kind of pickle we're in. Yeah. You know, I gotta say, like, so I'll reiterate this, but okay, really briefly, yeah, the pilot that they have is the same actor from Aoki, the same actor who played Aoki in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2. But I think that's supposed to be the same character. If I'm correct, I think that's supposed to be the same character from Godzilla vs. Biollante, who was played by the actor's brother. Let me see if I'm right on that fact. I'm gonna go over to good old Toho Kingdom. Yeah, this is the same. The pilot of Super X2 here is the same character from Godzilla vs. Biollante, played by in Biollante. Yeah, in this movie, it's Masahiro Takashima who was Aoki in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. But this character in Godzilla vs. Biollante was played by his brother, Masanobu Takashima. Anyway, yeah, the Super X3. Like the Super X, I'll stand by this. The Super X was a great like weapon to use against Godzilla. It was just kind of slow, and if Godzilla just did enough damage to it, then it would go down. Super X2 had only the one good weapon, the fire mirror. But if Godzilla hit any part of Super X that wasn't the fire mirror with his atomic breath, then that thing just got easily destroyed. The Super X3 here it's a plane, first of all. It's quick, it's maneuverable, and best of all, it's able to stand up against Godzilla's spiral breath. And yeah, the score, the piece of music that Ifukube wrote for the Super X3 is great. Shay Smithers. It gets confusing trying to keep track of this character / actor's backstory. Yeah. Oh, a piece of Godzilla's mouth just blew off. That's a cool transitioning effect. I know it's like that water. I know it's probably not cold, but that water after what just happened looks like it's freezing cold. Y'all really quoting Batman and Robin in the chat? Okay, so I'd get the impression that like I don't know. That could easily be resolved. This whole meltdown thing could have been resolved if they just constantly froze him, I guess. The Incredibles still the best Fantastic Four movie. That's for damn sure. At least until we get whatever Marvel Studios makes as like a real good Fantastic Four movie. Shay Smithers pointed this. Somebody pointed this out in the chat. Did you know that this was supposed to be Godzilla fights the ghost version of himself? Yes, the original concept for Godzilla vs. Destoroyah was that he was going to fight pretty much Ghost Godzilla. It was going to be a spirit version of the original 1954 movie, but the reason they scrapped it was because for 3 movies in a row, Godzilla would have ended up fighting a doppelganger of himself, and yeah, Mecha Godzilla, Space Godzilla, and then Ghost Godzilla just feels repetitive. Why would you want to lose the ability to, like, be psychic or be telekinetic? Especially considering that in this series, there's no prejudice against people with telekinetic powers. I think that would be awesome to have. But yeah, it's weird that they would drop that little detail later on that, or in this last movie, that Mickey eventually, as time goes on, she'll lose her powers. There's Junior. I can say that beach is pretty empty. Yeah? You know, it's funny. 1968 is when they first... No, 1967 is when Son of Godzilla came out. 1967, so 28 years since they first introduced Godzilla's son. And only now do they have an incarnation of Godzilla's son that actually looks like Godzilla. Like, at this point, I think it's pretty clear that Godzilla Jr. is like a teenage Godzilla. I gotta say, I'm actually surprised that the suit actor who played Godzilla Jr. Let me see if I can find. Yeah, Hurricane Ryu. I'm surprised that he wasn't called in to play Godzilla in the Millennium series. But then again, I don't think Toho anticipated bringing Godzilla back so quickly. So that might be the reason. Yeah, you thought the explosion was bad. Meltdown, forget about it. Yeah, earlier than that, as in today. Because, like, the way. Maybe it's just, like, the way this movie's edited or the way it's played out, but if Godzilla really was supposed to melt down in a week, they didn't do a really good job at emphasizing that, because you just get the impression that this whole like timeline between realizing that Godzilla's going to melt down and when he actually melts down, it's like it happens in the same day. There we get that Maser tank march from War of the Gargantuas again. And we actually get the freezer tank. Which I gotta say, like, this movie, I'm not gonna say it's a bad thing, but, like, in Godzilla Destroy Monsters Melee and Godzilla Unleashed, they just assumed that all these tanks were freezer tanks. Instead of, like, no, there's some tanks that actually are, like, legit lasers, and then the others are freezers, the ones introduced in this movie. They're back. Yeah, those bullets ain't gonna do shit against them. Ooh, there's some terrible. There's incredibly brief shots back there, but there was some Destoroyah crabs that were completely CG. These are real. Like, these Destoroyah crabs are actually real. But in that one shot before they just started opening fire, the foreground ones were CG. Like, those crabs aren't even moving. Or they aren't moving their legs. But that one shot before they started opening fire, the foreground crabs were stop motion, but there was one in the background that was CG, and it looked atrocious. Atrocious. I had some spit in my mouth for a second. Like this shot right here, the crabs are just kind of moving around constantly, but their legs aren't working. I believe it's the first use of CG in a Godzilla movie. I suppose so, but then again, it's a background effect that most people probably didn't even notice. Yeah, that's intimidating. Boom. So how far are these guys to where, like, they're not, like, being affected by Destoroyah? It's kind of weird that Destoroyah looks completely different when he's flying, or in his final form, which we'll get to later. Okay, here's something, like, I'm watching the Japanese version. Um, and that conversation plays incredibly different in the dub. The subtitles have this guy, the one scientist, saying maybe it was a bad idea to invite you on our team. But in the dub, he's like, maybe that suggestion to have Destoroyah fight Godzilla isn't a crazy one. Mickey, it's time to just do whatever you have to do for the greater good. And it's like Junior's minding his own business. And then they have to come in and do this. You know, I gotta say, there's some pretty, like, I get the idea to have Destoroyah fight Godzilla because it's pretty much the living embodiment of the Oxygen Destroyer. But in this current stage of the Oxygen Destroyer, in this current stage of Destoroyah, it would get pulverized by Godzilla. Because it's too small. Okay, how does that shot work? It is funny that, like, Godzilla Jr., for Godzilla always being misjudged as being green up until King Kong versus Godzilla, it's funny that Junior in this movie is the first Godzilla to actually be green and not charcoal gray like his dad. There's that shot where Destoroyah, like, flies past a window, and then a shadow comes up at the exact same side that Destoroyah came from. Like, Destoroyah flies past the window from the right side of the screen to the left, and then suddenly the shadow pops up from right to left. So that doesn't really make any sense. Like, this is the first time Godzilla's son can actually fight without his dad's help. Yeah, the great thing about this score is that it doesn't really reuse so many themes from the past. I mean, there's the theme there's the music at the aquarium that's from King Kong versus Godzilla, and then there's the Maser Tank March, but Destoroyah's theme is completely original and it's incredibly threatening. Now, if I'm correct, I think for the Burning Godzilla suit, they just modified this suit here. I think that's the modified suit from Mechagodzilla 2. And then the suit that's used in the bulk of the movie is a modified Space Godzilla suit. It's just they put in new spines to make him glow. Yeah, that's probably fatal. Yep, the son of Godzilla won his first fight without any sort of assistance at all. It really, like, seeing Godzilla Jr. Makes me even more mad that in Final Wars it's Manila again, because like you finally, like, this is the first movie with Godzilla's son throughout the entire franchise where he actually looks like his dad. He actually looks like a young Godzilla, and they don't use that anymore. Oh yeah, now we're... Shay Smithers said it best. We're from this point on, we're at the point in the movie where the sad emotional feels start to happen. Yeah, so this is like the first 2/3 of this movie are just like a standard Godzilla movie, pretty cool and all. And then this last third comes in. This last third comes in and just emotionally drains you. The director of Final Wars loves the Showa era, not the Heisei era. It doesn't matter. Like they radically redesigned Mechagodzilla. They just couldn't do a new version of Godzilla's son. There's the final form of Destoroyah. Okay, so the first time this movie was released on DVD or even VHS, the cover showcased the little crab destroyer. So I had no idea. Like, when watching this movie for the first time, this form of destroyer caught me totally off guard. Like, I did not expect it at all. And I'm surprised that Destroyer never came back for another movie, because like this is like the most, as I mean, King Ghidorah is his arch enemy, but Destroyer is probably as vile as you could get in terms of a Godzilla enemy. Okay, coming up right now is actually my favorite contrast to the terrible dubs that these movies received versus what the characters are actually saying. So after they do a full systems check, the main pilot says, "There goes our budget for the next year." If there is a next year. So that's pretty morbid. Huh? That's dark humor for you. But in the dub, he says something entirely different, which is, "Let's go freeze that overgrown lizard. This is gonna make my day." And I'm just like, come on. That's funny. Like, the fact that the roof opens up into a giant runway, that gets a laugh out of me. Just that they invented something like that for this particular weapon. Or aircraft, I should say. Yeah, the Super X3, the weird... The rare case where the third one is the best. You get a true like right here, you get a real sense of how big Destoroyah is compared to Junior. And also how evil he is. Yeah, this is the point. Like, This is the point where it's going to emotionally drain every Godzilla fan out there. Sucks for that pilot. Yeah, it's like Junior. It's like they already said that Destoroyah planted micro-oxygen molecules into his body. And it's like combined with that free-for-all, it's finally... God damn it. It's finally starting to take effect and slowly kill him. Okay. Pull together. You're not even at the saddest point in this movie. Or somebody asked why I have a problem with Destoroyah's feet. The way this suit is designed, his feet just look really puffy, and it just doesn't look like... It looks goofy whenever you try to see this form of Destoroyah walk. So that's why. Yeah, see, look at Destoroyah's feet there. They look more like giant sandal or giant like slippers. Yeah, they really should have brought Destoroyah back. That's a funny compositing shot where it's just like a regular old airport with people getting on board the planes. A plane's about to take off, but in the far background, Destoroyah's dragging Godzilla across the ground. Once again, to give you guys contrast between the way Japan handles burning Godzilla and the way America handles burning Godzilla. Burning Godzilla here means he has a heart attack and is about to melt down and destroy the world with him. And then in America, burning Godzilla means he's going Super Saiyan. I know we'd hear the Ifukube theme in movies in the Millennium series and through on out, but it is sad. It is kind of sad this is his last score. But then again, no better place to like end your career as a film composer than with the series that launched your career. Jeez, a lot of bloodshed. Or or maybe Destoroyah is just puking out mustard. I kind of wish there was a... They could have done a cool effect where we see Destoroyah retract his wings. Because if for the original Mothra and Godzilla versus Mothra, they could do an effect where Mothra sprouts her wings, I would have loved to see them try an effect where Destoroyah retracts or sprouts his wings. With that one suit. Now you got these crabs again. Like, these crabs look... I guess they're as big as Junior, but they look like they're slightly smaller than Junior. That is kind of scary that Destoroyah can pretty much change forms and just... Like, yeah, he could change his forms to where he splits apart into different tiny crabs. Y'all see him down there? Amazing that they managed to spot them in all that rubble. Imagine an amazing that these two actually those two actually survived all that chaos. with this movie, it's like, yeah, I just went silent there for a while, but it's weird that like you're so focused on Godzilla's actual death because the entire movie was marketed towards that, and that's probably the biggest scene that everyone remembers with this movie. But why was the Super X3 grounded? Okay, that's something I never understood. Like, why did the Super X3 just stop on the ground? But anyway, as I was saying, like, this movie was entirely built, again, its marketing campaign was built around Godzilla dying. It was such a big deal worldwide, and that's the biggest scene that everyone remembers when they see this movie. But you really forget how sad Junior's death is. Like, especially this moment here. This moment here is heartbreaking. It's like with Minya, it's always been like lighthearted and cute. And this time around, they actually killed Godzilla's son. And Godzilla tries to revive him. And it doesn't work. And Ken Satsuma, like, I feel like he doesn't get enough credit for his performance as Godzilla in this movie. Because he does, like, again, like, when all you have at your disposal is body movement, he sells you on the fact that, Godzilla's, like heartbroken by the death of his son. And the fact that he's angry at Destoroyah. Yeah, that doesn't look very convincing. Yeah, it's time. It's almost time. I wonder if that little shot right there is where Hideaki Anno got the inspiration for Godzilla to shoot lasers out of his back. Some people have a problem with Godzilla not killing Destoroyah in this movie. And the original film's ending actually had Destoroyah... Like, Godzilla pretty much melted down as he was killing Destoroyah. And there are some people that made crazy arguments that that should have been the film's ending. But if you have that, like, if you have, like, Destoroyah die with Godzilla at the same time, that takes away all the emotional impact, and suddenly that whole concept of marketing this movie around Godzilla's death is distracted. So I actually don't mind the fact that the Self-Defense Force takes out Destoroyah. I mean, I will say that maybe Godzilla should have delivered the final blow while Destoroyah was flying away. But I don't. I honestly don't have a problem with the way Destoroyah is taken out. Because I think Koichi Kawakita put it best. Like, you take away the focus from Godzilla if he's fighting Destoroyah during the meltdown. And I think the decision to cut that original ending was smart. This moment right here where, like, the sound effects are suddenly, like, just dropped, and Ifukube's score does all the talking with this scene. That's that's a great decision. Sorry if I just went dead silent for a bit. I don't think there's any... I didn't think it was appropriate to talk during that scene. But, I mean, it doesn't... The thing here is, like, it doesn't end completely on a sad note. Because, like, Junior died, but he got resurrected because of his dad. Like, that... I think it's confirmed that that's Godzilla Jr. And whether or not they hinted at a series continuing with Junior or not, I don't think they were hinting at another series. I think that was just more of a symbolic ending that, like, Godzilla will always live on. And yeah, this is my favorite of the Heisei movies, probably because of that ending. Yeah, that's Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, and that scene still gets me every time. Like, this certainly feels like the ending. Like, if they had not made any more Godzilla movies from here on out, this was a great way to end it all. And and Tomiike Tanaka died 2 years later after this movie. His last two credits were providing some story concepts for the first two Rebirth of Mothra movies. As I mentioned before, Momoko Kochi passed away 3 years after this movie came out. And Akira Ifukube officially went back into retirement and died in 2006. This was his last film score, and again, what a way to go out. Ooh. Yeah, so... And there's the main theme from King Kong vs. Godzilla. Kind of weird that he would bring in this theme for the end credits, but, whatever. Yeah, Kenpachiro Satsuma as Godzilla. Yeah, this... the ending's still impactful. But I just remember, like, as a kid, that ending, like, I could not... It took me, like, several watches before I could at least attempt to hold it together. Yeah, what a way to finish this series. Like, it's good that the Heisei series actually got a decent conclusion. And ended that series on a proper note, rather than just kind of fickling out until, like, a movie straight up bombed, like with Terror of Mechagodzilla. And, yeah, that's Godzilla vs. Destoroyah. And, under normal circumstances, this would be, this by all means should be where we go into Godzilla 2000. But, unfortunately, I made a promise. Kenpachiro, I'm sorry, yeah. The credits spelled his name incorrectly. Just like in Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Koichi Kawakita was spelled as Kapichi Kawakita. But yeah, like, by all means, I should move into Godzilla 2000 this Thursday. But, unfortunately, I made a promise to you guys. Because of the pandemic, I said I would be doing Roland Emmerich's movie, so... God damn it. Yeah, Thursday, Roland Emmerich's Godzilla. I've already done a watch-along for this with, yeah, on another channel. I did a watch-along with, let me pull this guy up. We'll pull him up for a second, because I have to give him credit. Yeah, Matthew Farley, he invited me on his channel to do a watch-along of Roland Emmerich's Godzilla, and it just... Yeah, that movie was tough to watch, and that was on July 1st that I rewatched that movie last. And now July 23rd, this Thursday, will be the second time I have to watch this movie in the same month. Fuck. Like this movie brought Godzilla fans nothing but sadness. This next movie coming up will bring Godzilla fans nothing but anger and frustration. Oh, but you know what? If there's one good side to doing Roland Emmerich's Godzilla again, is that the movie's on Netflix, and I have a feeling like more people beyond the casual Godzilla fans might want to join in and watch along. So if it brings in more viewers, then I guess that'll be worth it in the end. But God damn it all. Yeah, Godzilla 1998 will be this Thursday. Wanted to thank you all for tuning in, watching along. And if you like what I'm doing with the channel, you want to help support financially and help me do more watch-alongs, but exclusively for patrons, you can go over to patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson. Currently, for $1 a month, you just support the channel. But if we make it up to 25 patrons, I will start doing 2 watch-alongs a month exclusively for those who pledge to Patreon. Which means I could probably start doing the Gamera movies. Because I know... Because again, with the pandemic going on, I said I would be doing watch-alongs of only the Godzilla series and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But I would really like to try to do more watch-alongs and for more movies that I love. And I know the Gamera trilogy especially would be very popular amongst you guys. So again, patreon.com/TheRealMrRobinson if you want to help support the channel financially. If you can't, I'll actually leave a link in the chat. But if you cannot support the channel financially, then hey, no sweat. Don't feel bad about it. Your subscriptions and just sharing this content is good enough. And yeah, this Thursday will be Roland Emmerich Godzilla. Not looking forward to it at all. But yeah, until then, this is the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one.